them in the Garden of Eden. It was a wonderful place where they could eat of the fruit of all the trees in the garden except from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. All of the creation was perfect, and it was very good. Then Adam and Eve sinned. The devil came to Adam and Eve in the form of a serpent. He made Adam and Eve question what God had said by raising doubts in their minds. They ate of the fruit that they were told not to eat and disobeyed God. Then Adam and Eve realized they had sinned. Because of their sin, Adam and Eve would experience the consequences of their sin. They would experience hard work. They would see one of their sons kill his brother, and they would know pain, hardship, and torment. And finally, Adam and Eve would die. They would turn back into the dust from which they had been created. Then the same would happen to all of their descendants. In his love for Adam and Eve and all who would come after them, God promised a Savior from sin. God would send his one and only Son to be their Savior. This first promise of a Savior is found in the 3rd chapter of Genesis, when God tells the devil,
I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. You will crush her head, and you will strike his heel. Genesis 3, verse 15.
God did not forget his promise. He stated the promise again and again to his people and to his chosen servant Abraham.
I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Genesis 12, verse 3.
To Judah, the son of Jacob,
The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he comes to whom he belongs, and the obedience of the nations is his. Genesis 49, verse 10.
to his chosen prophet Moses, who led God's people from the bondage of Egypt to the land God had promised them.
The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet and me from among your own brothers. You must not listen to him. Deuteronomy 18, verse 15.
In the darkest of times, God's prophet Isaiah would remind God's people that the Savior was coming and what he would accomplish for all people.
served in the temple of the Lord. While serving in the temple, the angel Gabriel had come to him and announced that he and his wife would have a son, whom they were to name John. The child would become great and would prepare the way for the Lord. This child would become John the Baptist. Because Zechariah and his wife were well along in years, he doubted what Gabriel said. Because he doubted, the angel Gabriel told Zechariah that he would not be able to speak until the child was born. Listen as we hear of the birth of John the Baptist from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, verses 57 to 66.
When it was time for Elizabeth to have her baby, she gave birth to a son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown her great mercy, and they shared her joy. On the 8th day, they came to circumcise the child, and they were going to name him after his father Zechariah. But his mother spoke up and said, "No, he is to be called John." They said to her, "There is no one among your relatives who has that name." Then they made signs to his father to find out what he would like to name the child. He asked for a writing table, and to everyone's astonishment he wrote, "His name is John." Immediately his mouth was opened and his tongue was loosed, and he began to speak, praising God. The neighbors were all filled with awe, and throughout the country of Judea, people were talking about all these things. Everyone who heard this wondered about it, asking, "What then is this child going to be?" For the Lord's hand was with him.